Hello, football world, and welcome to fourth place trophy preview on the Serie A 2013-2014 season. I am ForzeJuvePiero, and I am joined by Jujez. Jujez, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm pretty good.
And Marquinhos. Marquinhos, how are things these days?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good as well.
All right, we'll get this started. We have the new season right around the corner, and thought we'd start out by talking AC Milan. AC Milan had a I guess slow start to the beginning of last season, but they probably had one of the best second halves of seasons in recent memory. Made up a lot of ground and ended up finishing third behind Napoli, getting that Champions League spot. And Marquinhos, just want to get your feel on how you thought last season went for your boys.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that the beginning started off horribly, like the worst in the Berlusconi era, and then second half, as you mentioned, was the best in recent memory. And I mean, I don't want to go much in detail about it because it's kind of already been there, done that. Like Milan started off bad because of the major players we've lost in Ibra and Thiago Silva and all the senior players in Seedorf, Nesta, Gattuso, and everyone. But yeah, it was. If you combine both half of the seasons, I consider it kind of a mediocre season.
And Jujex, what'd you think about it?
Well, at the beginning, I really didn't think that they were going to finish in the top three. So I was one of those guys who were, well, maybe a little enjoying the situation. But when they uh, got it together and with the inclusion of Mario, it was pretty impressive what they did. And they pretty much deserve to be in the top three.
Well, yeah, and that kind of leads into the kind of the first question I want to get it off with is, a lot of people were not so happy with Allegri after that kind of slow start to the season. Definitely brought it back, especially with some good Champions League performances. And Juchex, just want to think of your thoughts on Allegri still being on the touchline because there's a lot of off-season news about whether he'd be replaced.
Yeah, there are always news about Allegri. Rumors with meetings with Berlusconi, Galliani trying so hard to convince him to keep Allegri. I actually think Milan did the right thing because last year they went into a transition period with both Zlatan and Thiago Silva leaving. But the way he brought up players like El Shaarawy and Dicilio to the levels that they are now, and with the inclusion of Mario, there were no uh, controversies with him during the past half a season that he was in the team. So I think the stability that he brings to the season to the next season is going to be pretty important for Milan. Although some of the fans might not be happy that he's still there.
Well, going to that, so how do you feel, Marquinhos? Do you still want him on the touchline?
No, absolutely not. And
Okay.
Well, you won't have to worry about any more summit meetings because I think Berlusconi is going to be a little bit more limited nowadays.
this is true. This is true. And well, what I have to say is that part of the reason why we did so poorly last season was because Allegri was still stubborn with his 4-3-1-2 formation, and we didn't really switch things up, even though we lost a lot of key players that made that formation work. And I feel like this season's going to go to the same way because we're trying to adapt back to the 4-3-1-2. But if you look at our squad now, it's kind of the same basic main squad, and there's no players that can actually make that change that make the 4-3-1-2 work, except for maybe Balotelli being there.
Well, what do you feel is the optimal formation right now, given what the squad looks like?
I would have to say it's the. I mean, watching a couple of preseason games this season so far, I've seen. I'd say the 4-3-3 is what best works because it gives for us. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work great, but it works the best because we don't have to rely on our fullbacks creating width that we had to on 4-3-1-2, which Constant and Abate don't really do well. One they did, and with the 4-3-3, we have both our wingers in El Shaarawy or Boateng and Niang tracking back, so that covers that better, which I believe makes the squad better than it was with the 4-3-1-2.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Watching your game against PSV, I think Kevin Prince Boateng seems to be in good shape, and he can add to the he can definitely add to the 4-3-3 formation that you mentioned. Uh, Also, Milan, well, they didn't have a very busy season for transfers. They've made quite a few transfers. They bought Ricardo Saponara from Empoli. Christian Zapata was purchased outright from Villarreal. Gerson Vergara who's a young talent. I don't know much about him. Maybe Marcus can add to that. And you guys also bought Andrea Poli from Sampdoria and Matias Silvestre from Inter on loan. So, what do you think of your acquisitions?
All right. Zapata was a good purchase. I think we got him for right money too. I think it was like 6 million euros.
Yeah, that was a good buy.
He Yeah, he proved himself last season, and it would have been foolish not to buy him because him and Mexis made a great partnership in the back. What else we got? Zaccardo. Did we mention Zaccardo or no?
Zaccardo, no. Gerson Vergara. Do you know much about Vergara?
Oh, Vergara. I mean, I don't know too much about him. What I saw him from preseason, he looked actually like he has all the physical abilities to be a top center back. He just, he's lacking. He's really raw. He's lacking in the technical ability and reading the game. But he's only like 19
Well,
years old.
19
Yeah,
is
exactly.
young for a
Exactly.
center back,
Like,
so can't expect
yeah,
too much out of him.
exactly. So I'm actually really happy about him more than a lot of the youngsters we got right now. I think he'll be big in the future.
The one that I'm pretty impressed with is Andrea Poli. Uh, ForzeJuvePiero, what do you think about Milan getting Poli since it was linked to Juventus as well?
Well, I like the pickup just because he's a good young center midfielder who can maintain that possession well. And if there's anything that you can always have a surplus of, it's definitely a good midfield that you can rely on. It's someone to bring up behind Montolivo and learn from. So I think it's a good pickup, especially for the price of 3 million. I think that's a good acquisition. He had a great year last year at Sampdoria.
Yeah. On the departures front, you guys weren't too busy. I think you've sent Bartosz Salomon to Sampdoria as part of the Poli deal. Mario Yepes was he went to Atalanta on a free transfer. So was Massimo Ambrosini, who was a club legend, I think. And Taya Taiwo was given to Bursaspor. Also, Rodney Strasser was sold to Genoa on a ownership deal. So, what do you think of your outgoing transfers, Marcus?
I'm not really disappointed by much of it, to be honest. I mean, I think the biggest loss might have been, I want to say, either Salomon, because I think he had potential to make a great starter, but we didn't. I think there's something in the back we didn't like in the training. There's something he didn't prove, and we just didn't believe in him. So I don't know about that. And then Flamini, you didn't mention, but he left too on free.
That was my big disappointment for you guys. I thought he was a good talent to have.
I think he was too. Like the thing is, though, he played great his last 2 seasons here. When each of those 2 seasons, he was on his last year of his contract. So I feel like he's one of those players that play better in the last year of contract to prove he's worth big money or something. Because before that, he was pretty
Smart.
wasted.
Yeah,
Man,
that's
smart.
the
Exactly.
that's the Adebayor tactic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he does. But I think you guys haven't sold the players you wanted. There were deals for Robinho and Boateng. It was close. I think Robinho was linked to Santos. Why do you think it's been tough for Galliani? And also, how did you guys go from a team that spent 20 million on Robinho and the high salary of Zlatan to now you can't seem to afford to buy Honda for 5 million or Liège for 8-10 million?
All right. Well, regarding the first question, I think we've been stubborn with Robinho mainly because we want like full value we can get out of him. We don't want to get him cheap out. Get him cheaply. Get rid of him cheaply. There we go. Because we spent what 20 million on him, right, from Man City.
Yeah,
I think
20.
we want a good majority of that back. Like he wasn't bad. His first season here was actually his best, and he actually proved a lot to help us win the Scudetto that year. But I mean, since then he's been loss of confidence and kind of erratic in play. But yeah, I think we're just trying to get full value from him, and we're not really negotiating. We're like, you pay this Santos or you don't get him at all. And I think only Santos is really interesting in him right now in Brazil.
Yeah, well, and it's his desire to go back to Brazil, whether it's homesickness or just to kind of go back home. I mean, we see that with a lot of players, like even Adriano felt like he had to go home for whatever reason, I guess. And if they're going to pay him the money, why not?
Yeah.
Do you think Honda or Liaich are the players that can add to your team,
I think
add
both. Yeah,
quality?
I think both would be great adds to the team, especially if we're really convinced to switching to the 4-3-1-2, because either of them could work as the trequartista in up there on the one, and especially Honda. I think he's fantastic. Really underrated
Yeah,
talent.
I
Yeah,
think that would be the better of the
Yeah,
two, especially for the price. I mean, 5 million. You
yeah,
really can't beat that for the skill set that you're getting.
exactly. Like, so underrated. I can't. I just don't believe that's happening really. But yeah,
and
if we
and
can,
Liaich would be great if you guys stick to 4-3-3. He can
yeah,
play on the right wing as well.
exactly. Yeah, so he would be a good purchase as well, and he would improve the squad as well a lot, I believe.
Yeah, well, what I'm hoping for is to see a little bit more out of your up front two tandem. I mean, El Shaarawy and Balotelli, they got off to kind of a little bit of a rough start. I think they started getting better, and now that they're playing pretty consistently together up front with the Italian national team, I think that kind of cohesion will get better and better. But what do you think about how do you think their performance is going to look next year, Marquinhos, and with that tandem hopefully building upon what they did last year?
I think like for some reason people that earlier were like going crazy about it's not gonna work, it's the same Ibra effect, whatever. I don't think that's true at all. I think Elcharvi was just tired the second half of the season, playing his first full season Serie A and missing like maybe just I think he only missed 1 or 2 games actually.
Yeah, he was
That's
a
a lot for like a
workhorse. He
20
was
year
a
old.
workhorse last
Yeah.
year.
So I think that's just all like I don't. They're gonna be good. We saw it a little bit in I think November of 2012 when Italy versus France. They both got called up and they're both playing pretty well together.
Yeah.
I think this season we'll see them even more with more sparks flying between them.
Do you think El Shaarawy is going to get more goals or more assists next year?
That's a tough one, actually. I think it would be. I think it'd be more goals. Yeah, I would go with more goals and assists for him.
Montalivo is going to be the guy pulling the strings for Bilo because he's going to demand service from someone. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see kind of whether you consider it a burden or not. I mean, the guy's a 20 goal scorer pretty continuously, but we'll see who's providing those services. Demario.
I also think that El Shaarawy will be scoring a lot more goals. I mean, if you watch the game against PSV, I was really impressed with both him and Mario, especially Mario because he isn't the strongest when it comes to link-up play with his wingers. That's why Prandelli is primarily focused on him being the goal scorer. But in the game against PSV, he was very aware of his wingers and he played quite a few good balls to El Shaarawy. And if they keep this up, I think both of them are going to get a lot more goals this season.
Well, and I'm hoping their level of understanding improves purely because, I'm an Azzurri fan, so I'm hoping Italy goes far in the World Cup this next year. So, Marquinhos, you got to make sure that they actually do have a good year because that means Italy will play better. But that's a whole different podcast conversation. So, we'll save that when it gets closer to summertime.
Yeah, maybe they make it to the final against Brazil, and El Shaarawy will probably be missing the last penalty, and we lose to
Oh,
Brazil on
God, as long as it's
penalties.
not penalties. So I guess what do you think we can expect from what place Milan is gonna take in the table next year, Marquinhos? Where do you see them kind of coming out?
Um, for me right now, it depends how much more we make in the market. If we make the desired transfers in Honda and or Lalich, I think we could. I think Juventus already wrapped up the title. For honestly, I think we'll fight good for second. I think we'll win second place for the season coming up.
You're a very smart Milan fan. I like you, Marcus.
I've already succumbed to defeat, dude. I already know. Juve looks really strong.
Well, Jujez, where do you feel Milan will come out this year? I can guess it's not going to be first, at least of what you're going to say.
but I think they're going to be the main challengers to the title this season. I know that a lot of people think Napoli have a really good chance of winning the league this season, but Rafa Benitez, I haven't seen anything from him in Serie A that makes me think that. But Milan, the way they are and their character and their history, they are always on top of the league with us. And especially this year, from what I've seen so far from El Shaarawy and Balotelli, if these two can click and get goals, both of them, there's no reason why they can be challenging us until the end.
Well, and my point is that they barely missed out on it last year on being second, and they had one of their worst starts ever. So, short of that happening again, which Marquinhos will knock on wood for you that doesn't happen. But I just don't see that that's going to be an effect to them. And yeah, I mean, Napoli, they have a great squad on paper. They spend a lot of money, but it takes time to build a team. And if Rafa's, he wants to do well in Europe, so will that make league be affected in some way? Well, time will tell. But enough about Milan. I think we're all agreed that they'll be about second in the table. But let's go into Fiorentina's season. They had an interesting end to the season. If not for anything, it was close between Milan and Fiorentina, kind of seeing who would get that last spot. But Marquinhos, what do you think of Fiorentina's season last year?
They did a great job, I believe. I think, what was it? I think 2 years ago they finished like 13th?
Yeah, 15th, 16th. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. They improved like by 24 points, I think, if I read that correctly when I checked that. And that's a huge improvement when new coach and new players and everything. Kind of reminds me of Juve's Scudetto winning season in 2011, 2012. Same kind of new coach, new tactics, new players, and just still everything gelled together and played well.
Yeah, what do you think, Jujez?
Well, I think they were robbed. They deserve to be. They deserve to come third. Yeah.
Right after the Milan section had that one out there.
The referees, they had Milan's back. Yeah, that's the only reason they missed out on it.
Let's not get into a pissing contest, gentlemen.
I'm not saying
No, I'm just trying to get a reaction from our guest. He seems to be quite calm.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay calm.
They had a pretty good season. Nobody expected them to be that good, but I guess Marcus said it best. A new Italian coach, a young coach in Vincenzo Montella. He brought a new style out of him and got best of a lot of players who weren't very well known to us. So it was really impressive.
And I think the key was the attacking style.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we're starting to see that a lot more with Italian sides. They're kind of coming out and really trying to push it. They're not doing the stereotypical, let's just sit back and play the counter, put 9 in the box, and hope to just play out a 0-0 draw. So that's what I like to see about Montez. Is he's an attacking coach. So he's definitely got some firepower now that they brought in over the summer, and in places like Cuadrado and Alonso and Ambrosini, and gotta say Gomez and Ilic. So Jujez, what do you think of their transfers so far this summer, and how do you see that affecting the squad moving forward?
They've done well. I mean, the standout acquisition here is Mario Gomez from Bayern. I remember saying that I don't believe that they can get Gomez from Bayern, but for just a mere 16 million euros, they have a Champions League winner, and I think it's the most impressive transfer of all Serie A this season. I'm pretty sure he's going to be scoring a lot of goals for him. Ilicic, with Jovetic gone, I think they needed a creative player.
It was a smart acquisition, yeah.
But he's not as good as Jovetic, and we'll discuss that. But they needed somebody like him, especially with Ljajic linked to Milan. They've also got Joaquin from Malaga. He was pretty good for Malaga last season, although he's over the age limit.
Yeah, but again, another experienced right winger, and that feeds right into that.
I don't know
style.
much about Marcos Alonso though, or Yakovenko, the young striker that they got from Anderlecht. But they got Ambrosini. What do you think about Ambrosini's acquisition, Marcus?
I'm a little sad that we let him go like that. I want him to retire as a Milanista. But
hey, Del Piero here, you're preaching to the choir.
You did it much worse last year. Nesta, Inzaghi,
hey, that's a whole different conversation.
I'm not into that.
We'll have tears after that one.
Okay.
All right. I think Ambrosini was a good move for them because they have such a talented and technical midfield that Ambrosini brings in the muscle and for tackles and disrupting their play, the attacking opponents' play of game, while the midfield doesn't have to worry about it too much with Ambrosini back there.
Yeah, and I think absolutely for 15.5, Mario Gomez is a steal. I mean, he's 27. It's not like he's over the hump by any stretch of the imagination, and they got just a clinical goal scorer. And I think Quadrado at 5 million is a good pickup
Definitely.
from Udinese. I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
being a Juve fan, we all know that Udinese comes out with some great central midfielders. So I think that's a good pickup for them.
Well,
It
central
might be
midfielders and
a stronger
wingers,
body
wingers,
in the
three good
middle.
wingers. Yeah, Cuadrado.
Yeah, and Joaquin, he's going to be that veteran winger that just feeds into what Montez is trying to do over there, anyways. So I think they're all good moves, and I think frankly it puts them definitely in a top five position next year.
Uh, on the sales department, though, they weren't too busy. I guess you could all say that there was this whole transfer saga of Seven Jovetic to Juve, and well, that didn't work out very well for us. I'm not really happy about that. But they've sold Jovetic to Manchester City for 26 million plus a bonus. They sold Haris Seferovic to Real Sociedad, who scored a brilliant goal a few days ago, and the good old Luca Toni to Verona, I think. Yeah,
I'm sure they're
yeah,
crying over
they
that
are.
one.
So, Evan, what do you think of Jovetic's sale to Manchester City?
Well, again, being a Juventino, I was sad to see that he did not come our way, but I think for Fiorentina, probably got a good price from him. I mean, he is slightly injury prone, so getting 26 million from him to fund some of their other acquisitions, I think, was a good move in the long run. I mean, if you just look at the swap between Mario Gomez and Jovetic, I mean, that's not too bad of a swap. One could argue that they made off better right now and made money. So it's sad to see him go and go to the EPL, but I think that sale's not too bad.
What about you, Marcus?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think actually Man City got a better deal than what I think Jovetic is worth, and they made better off with Mario Gomez, and then got a few attacking talents that could replace the creativity he brought to the squad.
Okay. I was a little sad seeing Jovetic leave. I really wish we could have got him, but I agree that they made a good deal. He wasn't worth that much, but still, I think he's going to be worth even more than that in a few years. But moving on to our next question, we're seeing a lot of younger coaches making their way into top clubs around Europe and Italy. Especially for Italy, there are Conte and Montella, who are the two most successful examples. With Vincenzo Montella renewing his contract until 2017, how do you see him faring moving forward? And do you think his more attacking mentality compared to the traditional Italian tactics is a good or bad thing? I'm going to start with you, Marcus.
I think it's a good thing. I like to see more attacking from all the Serie A teams in the league, and I like this transition that modern time that more teams are more attacking than sitting back the old Italian style. And I think it's farewell for Montella staying at Fiorentina. I think they could, before his contract's over, I believe they could actually challenge and potentially win a Scudetto in that time. In my opinion, I think they can.
Well, and I think if they keep up the style of play that they're playing and keep adding talents like Mario Gomez, that will be a reality sooner rather than later. But I same thing, Marcus. Totally agree with you. I think that the attacking style is exciting to see. I mean, that's why people like to watch Barcelona again, arguably. But let's just say they're the ones that people want to watch, generally speaking, because score a lot of goals, are always in the opposition's half of the field, and so it'll be good seeing this new brand of Italian football coming out, and hopefully, again, it makes imprints on Prandelli's side. But I think that'll also draw more talent to Serie A, which we're already starting to see when we see these kind of new coaches with new ideas. But you got to have defense still, so hopefully that doesn't go completely away.
Yeah, I agree. But with Jovetic gone and possibly Ljajic leaving, you gotta admit that they have a completely new attack with Gomez and Giuseppe Rossi, who I think we're all hoping to get back to his form again. How do you think that will change the Viola attack, and do you see it being more fruitful or not, Evan?
Well, I'd hope so. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Giuseppe Rossi. When he was with Villarreal, that is a great player to watch. It's just unfortunate that he's had such bad injury stints with, I believe it's with his knees. But Mario Gomez is going to be a great talent. I think he's going to be definitely loved by the ultras down there in Florence. But I think they can be a really potent attack. If everyone stays healthy, they can be an El Shaarawy and Mario Balotelli type of attack. With the creativity coming from Rossi and that kind of killer instinct coming from Gomez.
What about you, Marcus?
I agree completely with Evan. Like when you see the Lialic and Jovetic combo, they're both kind of young, and I won't say inexperienced because I don't believe they are. But we got two players who, Gomez entering his prime right now, entering his prime, and Giuseppe Rossi, he's looking what he's from seeing, so he's looking just like his old self. I think they actually got better attack going on with them too, just as Evan has mentioned, and I think they'll fare off better with them than they would have. Oh, I mean, yeah, for now in the more modern time or more current time, I think they would be better off with them too than Jovetic and Lialic.
I gotta say I'm not too sure because with Jovetic and Liaic, the flow of their attack was really smooth, and Montella had a very good formation, and I think I'm not sure with Rossi coming back from injury, he can be the provider that you mentioned, Evan, because he at Villarreal he was more of a goal scorer himself, and Gomez he's not the kind of player who can get involved in the link-up play, and with both of them together, I'm not sure if they're going to be scoring a lot of goals. I mean, if they can rely on Cuadrado and other wingers to provide service for Gomez, they can get a lot of goals, but I'm not sure how Rossi is going to get.
Well, I think you underestimate Rossi when he's out in space. So I think if he moves out along the flanks and plays a role that for Juve, that kind of the Giovinco out wide trying to come in type of a role. If he did that, he could still provide some service to Gomez. But yeah, I mean, of course, Gomez is going to demand the ball.
After his injury, I mean, it remains to be seen how is his speed still there, and he wasn't really a winger in Villarreal. I mean, if it was Rossi and Jovetic, I would definitely bet on them making the top three. But still, I'm not sure how this one's going to work out.
It's absolutely a gamble, but I mean, they got Rossi for dirt cheap, and he has the potential if he stays healthy, because we've all seen it, of being a great striker. So time will tell whether or not it proves to be one of the top pairings in all of Italy, but I think the potential is absolutely there because you're going to get goals from Gomez. Rossi is going to get you goals. Just whether or not they can kind of feed off each other is we'll see if Montella can come up with something. But with that kind of new upfront attacking pair, Marcos, where do you see the Violi kind of coming out on this season in terms of their placement on the table? Do they get a Europe spot?
I believe that they'll be challenging for the Scudetto early on, but I think with the introduction of Europa League, they might wear off a bit. And I think they'll challenge for Champions League between Milan and Napoli. I think they'll finish third this season.
That's a high pick.
At least getting, yeah, I think Napoli's not going to do so well this season. That's just my opinion, though. We'll go into that later, I guess.
Yeah, that's for another preview. What about you, Jujez? Where do you see the Viola turning out?
I'm not as optimistic as Marcus is. I think, as I said, I'm not sure how their new system is going to gel. Although I believe that Gomez craps goals. I mean, if you watched him during Bayern games, someone would just shoot it and it would deflect off of him and they would score a goal out of nowhere. But with what I already mentioned, I think Fiorentina will maybe finish fifth or fourth, possibly fifth, under Napoli.
Fifth.
Yeah, because I said that Roma is gonna finish third if they keep Lamela. It's a little out there, but yeah, it is a little out there, but still.
Yeah, Jujez has an interesting table in his mind.
Yeah, I'm betting a lot on Roma. It remains if they sell Lamela, they're gonna finish fourth or third.
I'm going for fourth. I don't think they'll get the Champions League spot. I think they will go into Europe, and I hope they do. I mean, we all just watched Udinese have a terrible showing in their Europe.
Oh, God.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. But
Don't talk about
you know, as a Serie A fan, I want to see a team that's going to go out and turn some heads and hopefully get some wins under their belt so that we can get that fourth spot back, which will take a lot, but. I'm going to go with a fourth place finish for Fiorentina this year, and we'll see if that Gomez-Rossi duo pays off in the end. But want to thank Marquinhos for joining us. Marcos, thank you for coming in and talking about your beloved Milan. I mean, got to have someone representing here, right?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and as always, this is ForzeJuvePiero and Jujez, and we'll be coming back to you again with another preview on some additional squads here on Fourth Place Trophy for the preview for the Serie A 2013-2014 season.